You're listening to Passing Time, a Detroit Lions podcast. We're one pride and all grit, with a passion for Detroit Lions football. Whether you're between meetings, between classes, sitting in traffic, or just relaxing at home, if you have time to pass, pass it with Passing Time. Detroit Lions Talk.
Welcome back. Passing Time, episode number 52.
Here we go.
I'm Rob.
I'm Brian.
And we appreciate you coming back. Thanks for tuning in and making Passing Time one of your weekly listens. We're on the clock, and you're passing time with us, a Detroit Lions podcast. Let's get after it, Brian.
Here we go.
On the podcast today, we have we're going to hit hard on OTAs.
Yes.
Just finishing the first week of OTAs. We got some news and notes there, some juicy stuff. I mean, as much juice as you can squeeze out of the berry after week one.
And, it's pajama party, right? So what are we really going to get out of that?
Well, we're going to give you something out of that,
something.
right? So tease it up. Don't tease it down, all right? A couple big trades around the NFL. We're going to analyze that.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting hot out there.
Yeah. Jack Campbell got a new contract. We're going to diagnose that a little bit.
I love him sticking around.
And then we're gonna play a fun game. We looked through the DraftKings app and we looked at a bunch of over-unders for team wins, playoff chances, odds. We're gonna kind of go through that and just kind of talk about what we see. And then we noticed a couple nuanced things in there with some teams having greater odds here, but then it contradicts itself and having lesser odds here.
Yep.
And it does affect your Detroit Lions on some of it, how they feel about it. But the majority of this podcast, man, we are going to hit OTAs. We have the names that you want to hear that we're going to talk about today.
All right, let's get it rolling. What do you got?
Let's get it rolling, Brian. Do you want to remind everybody to like, follow, subscribe, and listen?
Please like, follow, subscribe. Go to all the socials and check all the boxes so that we can get on the algorithm, so that you can see more of us, so that we can get things rolling even better. So
I love it. So, Brian, the main name getting buzz, and one of the reasons is probably because people are hyper-focused on this guy.
Yeah.
He was our first-round draft pick, Mr. Blake Miller. You want to kind of talk about what they're saying about Blake Miller?
It's exciting because he's starting to get reps already at that right tackle. Part of the ones, whether it's him or Larry. But ultimately what they're saying is this is a big, big man.
That's what you want, right? Yeah. That's what you want over there. Do you think they're trying to accelerate this development, but saying all right, we're going to throw you right into the fire, and we want you to be ready?
100%. I mean, if you look at what the Lions are doing right now, it's a little bit different, right? There was no rookie minicamp, so it is veterans and rookies alike. Here you go. It's time to understand, get this thing rolling. You're our first-round pick. We expect a lot out of you. We're moving Penei Sewell to the left side in order to open up a spot, and we want you to tie it down. So
yeah. I mean, you got to like your depth at right tackle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to like the fact that, you don't want Penei to go down, but you got some more optionality this year.
Yeah, and I love the depth. I know they've reworked a ton of that offensive line. I'm very interested to see how this pans out. I want it to work so much. I want it to work. I really do. So, I mean, this is going to be the engine that really drives this Lions team, and it's going to be the biggest cog in whether it's going to be successful or not. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, hey, Blake Miller, you're in the adult league now, man.
Yeah.
Welcome up here. There's some big boys out there, and there's some guys hungry for contracts, for jobs, for second contracts, for next year that you got to go in there and you got to beat out.
Yeah, and Larry Borum is not going to just sit back and say, oh, yeah, you're a first-round pick, so it's yours. It is going to be a all-out war, and as soon as there's some pads put on, we're going to actually really be able to dissect who's going to be in that spot. So.
And, the old saying, iron sharpens iron, it's kind of an old adage, but, the fact is, there was nobody pushing for that left tackle job last year. It was show up, and you've had this job for 9 years, and you can kind of run with it.
And not only that, but it was there was nobody behind him. It was whether you're 100% healthy or banged up or hurt, you're our guy. You're the best we have. So
yeah. So we got a no-brainer now on the left side that we moved from the right side in Sewell.
Yep.
As long as he's healthy, he's a top 3 left tackle in the NFL. That might be doing him a bit of a disservice saying that.
Yeah.
So let's move it inside now. Left guard competition. Kind of what are you hearing? What are you reading there?
Well, this is, to me, the biggest question mark, right? I still recall when we got Rodrigo, and he came in as a linebacker, and he shocked some folks in his rookie season and played some good football. But we still, going into that 2023 draft, picked up an inside linebacker, and were able to get Jack Campbell because we knew that Rodrigo, though was good, we needed to improve that, right? I feel Christian Mahogany is very similar in that regard. He's good. He's a placeholder right now, though, and we need to ideally upgrade, but hopefully for a year we can lock this down, have some depth behind him, and create some competition so that those guys can continue to grow. You still have Myles Frazier, who is going to compete for that job. Drew Scruggs, who's going to compete for that job. Ben Barth, who is still in the mix, maybe. So you got guys there that are going to have to you're going to have to see what cream rises to the top. So.
Well, one thing about that left guard spot is, you look to your left and you have a perennial All-Pro right there, right?
That is going to help Christian Mahogany tremendously.
Yes, and then you look to your right and you got a guy that the Lions earmarked as, a guy that's going to be their future center for the next 3 years plus to come, right?
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope.
You know what? Like, if you're looking around, you don't want any part of your offensive line to be weak. But if you're looking around, you got a guy in Mahogany that's already started a fair amount of games. You know what you got. Maybe it's that C+, B- type starter. But if you're surrounded by, A's and B pluses, and it's not a bad place to sneak a guy in, right?
Absolutely. And when you surround yourselves with A's and B- or A's and B's, it's going to push you to be a little bit better too. So
yeah, no doubt. So the way that Brian and I would probably handicap this is there is a competition over there between Mahogany, Frazier, and Scruggs. Mahogany's probably, in Vegas terms, probably minus 200, right? Like, there's not a lot of money on that. He's probably going to be your starter here. He's going to have some competition. It's not guaranteed. Then you got Frazier coming in probably right around plus 300. It'd be a surprise if Frazier, took that job. And then you got Scruggs back there as a guy that really can play left guard, center, right guard, and it's just a depth piece. And it'd be pretty surprising maybe at like plus 350 if he were to take that job, right? Which would be great if you know what you got in Mahogany and you get another guy coming out and beating him out. That's a win for the Lions, right? Ultimately, we know what we have with Chris Mahogany, and if somebody comes in, like you said, beats him out, that is meaning we're getting better. No doubt. So going from the offensive line to the defensive line, I know we didn't talk about Cade Mays or Tate Ratledge. Not a lot of. Those are probably your guys, and it's underwear Olympics. So we're trying to give you some of the newer names, some of the angles here. So moving to the D line, Brian, you and I talked. I think three guys pretty much have their roles secure.
Yeah.
Right. You got Aiden, Tyleek, and Aleem. Right.
And you're gonna need to expect Aleem to get back to form. You're going to need to expect Tyleek to take your 2-step forward, and you're going to need to expect Aiden to have a great season.
Yeah. So then you got this other edge kind of spot opened up, and you got a few names out there. Do you think that Derek Moore can lock up that other edge?
I do. I think that there's a lot to like there. I think that he might be a guy that may week 1, week 2, week 3 might not be the guy, but as we get closer to the bye and then after the bye, you might see a transition, right? So week 6, week 7, you start to see more of Derek Moore, maybe a little bit less of guys like DJ Wanham or Peyton Turner, if Peyton Turner's healthy at that point. But ultimately, guys that are going to be older, going to be shifting out, and guys that are younger might be shifting in. So you mentioned another guy that is getting some love.
Hassanin has been getting a lot of love, and he might be a guy that just is an underwear Olympic guy, a CrossFit guy. But he basically he's going to challenge he's going to get in there and he's going to give it all he got. And he's a player to watch. And it sounds crazy because he wasn't a guy that was even cracking the 53 last year. But I think he's going to find his way onto the 53. I think he's going to see the field this year. I don't know how much, but he's a guy that's starting to get a lot of, I don't know, his name's getting typed up a lot by a lot of different people watching.
I love it. He's a guy that it's easy to like, right?
Yeah.
He's a guy that he's cut from the mold. He's young in his football career still, still learning, but just has that want to, right? He wants to be able to be at his all and be at his best and pushes others along that way. And those are guys that you love in your locker room. You got those you love on the practice field, and it's going to force other guys to be like, get up and get to his level, or you're going to not make the roster. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you ever played a sport or did something that is competitive, right? And I can remember this throughout my playing days, but as a guy like that thinks they got a spot on lock, and if you got this younger guy coming up, and he, when you're doing pulls in baseball, if he's doing pulls faster than you, when you're doing extra work, extra reps after practice, whatever it might be, he's doing it faster, harder than you are, and you're like, man, like that coach, he's probably catching his eye. So I gotta maybe push myself a little bit more and a little bit more. And if Hassanin, if he can give you that, and DJ Moore sees that, if DJ Wanham sees that, if Peyton Turner sees that, if Aiden Hutt, if all those guys are seeing this guy just work harder, you don't want to stand out and look bad. Mm-hmm. So if he's just bringing that culture of just lunch pail hard work, that's a positive for everybody, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So it got me thinking here, like Brad Holmes, I think he knew all along that he was probably going to draft a D end, whether it was going to be the first round, the second round, or trading up high third or somewhere in that area. He knew that he was probably going to sign a D end. And that's why I want to go back to DJ Wanham. And I think he was the perfect signing for Brad Holmes, who knew that he was going to give some draft capital to that D end room. And he got a very high floor, low ceiling guy that can go and start. He could start all the games and will be fine. But also, if he just turns into a really nice rotation player where he can spell guys and let Derek Moore go out there, it's just for the price, for the term, it just made a ton of sense. And then you think about, okay, then they go out and they get Peyton Turner, a former 25th overall first round draft pick, guy that tests well, looks well, underwear Olympic guy, who's the opposite really. He's a super low floor, a guy that might not even, he's got no guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Might not make the roster, right? But also, if they can unlock him and whatever that first round potential was, the RAS score, whatever.
Yeah.
They have all the potential right there to push guys, right?
It's a no risk and high reward type of player, right? I mean, you seen Brad Holmes do this before. You've seen a Muhammad come through and get 11 sacks. You've seen these guys be able to produce these scrap heap type guys that we just uncover or give a new a different window to look through, and they start to perform. So
yeah, so I want to go on record here on a couple things, but I already
all right.
If you go back a couple pods, I kind of went on record here, but I think as you get into this season, Derek Moore is going to be your starter. Maybe it's not week one. Maybe it is. But as you go. But Derek Moore is never going to be a flashy player. He is never going to be a flashy line. Maybe more like a Meek or a Rockison or a guy that does a lot of right things, but just is never that ultra flashy player that you could insert in your lineup and be fine with. I think that's going to be Derek Moore. I think he's going to be just a solid long-term. He's going to have a 10-year career in the NFL. He might eke out a Brandon Graham year or something like that, as you get down the road. But he's going to be a solid player. I want to turn the page to linebacker now, and I want to talk about a guy that's been getting a little bit of chatter.
Okay.
And Jimmy Roller. You know, we didn't have any third round draft picks, right, Brian?
Right. No.
We talked about it a lot on the podcast, right?
We've given those up in order to get other guys and hoping that pans out.
So we go to the fourth round, right? It's
Yep.
a very valuable pick. We sat on that clock for a very long time,
Yep.
right? And we take Jimmy Roller, okay? And we have a need at linebacker, right? So Jimmy Roller's been getting chatter. They're basically, he's a guy that's he's already gonna be a main guy on special teams, okay? Stock up early on him. They're saying that he's running with the twos at linebacker right now. As a fourth rounder, making the team is probably handicap it at a 75% chance making the team.
Yeah.
Coming out and starting a little bit in your first year, probably maybe you take that and reverse it. It's probably a 25% chance. Probably.
Okay.
I think we got a guy in Jimmy Roller who's going to go out there. He's a lunch pail guy. He is a Jack Campbell type protege. Where I think you're going to get a guy that halfway through the year is a starter, and you might not look back.
And I would appreciate that because there is a need, right? Right now, there's a need at linebacker, and I don't know what Kelvin Shepard and Dan Campbell and that defensive crew have decided or whipped up in the offseason in order to adjust to losing guys like Amik or Anzalone, but being able to bring in guys like Jimmy Roller could ease those tensions. Are we going to see more nickel? Are we going to get out of our base defense more because we don't have a guy like Anzalone who can cover and play that inside linebacker spot? Or is Jimmy Roller going to just come in and be able to fill that void?
I think the Lions would be smart to probably get out of that base defense a little bit more often with kind of the chess pieces they have in the field. But as the season progresses, I guess your tall tale is here. One, if you're starting to see him on the field a lot more, and if you're seeing him on the field a lot more, and all of a sudden the Lions are getting more comfortable in that base defense, you know that they're liking what they're seeing, right?
Absolutely. And now it brings me back, though, to the Rodrigo type question: is a Jimmy Roller going to be an upgrade from a Rodrigo type linebacker? Is he going to push Barnes in his role? And we just saw Jack get his money, so we know that he's pretty solidified in what we're going to see there for the next several years.
We're going to talk about that contract coming up.
And we'll talk about that. But where is Jimmy Roller going to fit? Is he going to be that Sam-like linebacker, or is he going to play more of that weak side? So
yeah, and hopefully those guys are versatile. And it's funny, you gave that Rodrigo thing up front. It's nice to have a guy like Rodrigo sitting there that you could plug in.
You can trust he's going to play good football. He tackles unbelievably. It's just he's got some faults in his coverage ability. I mean, some limitations in his size.
He's not long. He's not quick twitch,
but he is going to give you good football.
So long ways to go, but I would say stock up, and this guy's going to battle. And my hot take is we're going to be sitting here middle of the year, and I'm going to say, hey, go back to episode 52, guys.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you that Jimmy Roller is going to be a guy, and Jimmy Roller is going to be a guy.
Yep.
So that's my guy. All right.
All right.
Safety depth.
Yeah.
Well documented. We got a couple guys that are going to rehab and injuries, and there's been a lot of positivity. Actually, there hasn't been negativity there, right?
Right.
So I take that as there's been positivity,
okay.
right?
Okay.
Is that how you view that?
I look at it as indifference, which is not great for me.
Okay.
I don't love the fact that there's no hype in that safety room, but I also love the fact that there's no oh my gosh, we're taking steps backwards either. So
yeah, so those guys are going to get healthy. We're talking about Branch and Kirby.
Yep.
As they get healthy right now, Christian Eisen and Chuck Clark they're getting most of the run with the ones right now, and I think the Lions are okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the stories of Kirby Joseph is on the sidelines. He's there. He's dancing. He's looking like he's in high spirits. But they're also talking about hey, it's May. right? It's June.
No, it's June.
We're early in the process, right? Is my point. The OTAs are not where we need to be, diving all in. It's the August, it's the Septembers, it's the Octobers, it's the Novembers, and ideally it's beyond, right?
Yeah.
That's where we want our guys to be healthy. That's where we want our guys to be ready and raring to go. It's not right now.
Yeah.
It's not OTAs. And so you hear Dan Campbell, we'll talk about that too. You hear Dan Campbell say, hey, he's lessening the hype. He's not like, hey, things are great. No, but he's like, it's a pajama party. It's pajamas. It's practice in pajamas. Right now we're going through walkthrough and 7-on-7s. This is not. It's exciting because it's football, but it's not real football.
Let's get into Dan Campbell.
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
Give me like a 30-second. Let me just get one more on the DB room, and let's get into like Dan Campbell's like. I think he's a little bit of a changed man. So the last is you got Keith Abney getting cross-trained at multiple spots.
Excited
right?
about this.
This is a guy that like
value pick in the draft is one of the guys that you hear constantly. Is like, man, you got that guy in the 5th. So
yeah, and he is what they're doing is they're giving him a chance to make the 53, right? Like they're playing him at slot, they're playing him at corner, they're playing him at safety, and they're just trying to figure out if this is a guy that like one man goes down, you can go Abney and say go, and they're not going to lose too many steps. So I think that's his path to making the 53. Probably playing some special teams, but. There's a lot of positive buzz there with, Underwear Olympic Week 1 going.
Yeah.
So getting back to Campbell, Brian, do you notice a bit of a difference with him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He is doing things that just a tad different. He and the rest of the staff are they're not revealing anything special. Right? He's not hyping up any of his guys. He's being a little bit more reserved. He's like business. You look at him and he's business. He's like, I don't want to waste my energy or my time on anything that's not getting my football team better.
Yeah.
And I love that right now. You look at even the schedule release. Simple, concise, business.
Yeah.
It has no frills, no excitement, no cameos. It was pinning the schedule on the board, going back to work.
Yeah.
And I think that is the mentality that he is trying to portray to his team. It's this hungry, business-like mentality. It is what Detroit loves. It is the lunch pail and hard hat and ready to go.
Yeah. Like obviously it's been well documented on this podcast. I'm also a very big Michigan fan, right? Like a Michigan football, all Michigan fan. And it kind of like, I'm just thinking about this raw and live right now, but it reminds me of following Michigan and like Jim Harbaugh. And in the earlier stages of Jim Harbaugh, he was doing like this signing of the stars, and he was bringing Ric Flair out. Woo! And there was yellow Corvettes lined up, and it was announcing this coveted recruit class coming in, and there was all the the sparklers and the pizzazz, and then the results in the field were the expectations were sky high. This was a good program with a great coach, and then the results in the field were like 9-3, you're falling short, and then all of a sudden he just kind of went into the submarine and the bunker and said, no more of that stuff. It's just. And then you saw Blake Corum, you saw all the guys come out. He bought everybody these blue mechanic shirts, with the name Blake. And it was just like, if you went up to get your oil change, it's what the guys wear. And it kind of said, hey, we're going to turn a new leaf. It's none of that fancy stuff. And we're just going to go like, and he wasn't doing the extra press conferences. He wasn't giving any extra detail. It was just like, and also he wasn't touring the United States doing recruit football camps like he was back then. It was just like, we're going to go back to like boring, and I'm going to hyper focus on this team. And then what came next was a national championship.
Yep.
And a couple playoff appearances. So I think Dan Campbell might have like been basking in the glow of like all the hype and everybody loved the Lions and he liked that a little bit.
Oh, who wouldn't? I mean, you've taken a team that was less than subpar. I mean, they had nothing. 15 wins, or even better yet, the year before, an NFC Championship game. You know, the brink of a Super Bowl, and you then get this past season humbled to some extent. 9-8, which is still a winning season. He's still having success, but nowhere near the expectations that the Lions have set for themselves. Not just the fans, but for themselves. So now they have to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Look at themselves deep in that mirror and decide what is truthfully what we want. What is our expectations moving forward, and how are we going to get there? And it has nothing to do with celebrations in the end zone after touchdowns, even though that's fun. It has nothing to do with hyping up a player in May and June. It has everything to do with going to work, grinding it out, and getting things done.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I know it's not football season, but I haven't seen Dan Campbell in commercials recently. You were seeing Dan Campbell, and he was,
Applebee's and Sam Bernstein, and
law firms, insurance companies.
Companies.
He's getting out there.
He was.
It's been kind of quiet with Dan Campbell.
And it's funny enough, I know it's not football season, but it's been pretty quiet across the board for Lions. I mean, you don't see Aiden Hutchinson in Allstate commercials right now, or everything else. Right now, it sounds like it's time to get to work.
Yeah, interesting. That was a live kind of thought on that. It wasn't really meant to be part of segment one, but I think we're onto something here.
But I also think it's amazing to think of, where have the Lions been successful? Where have the Pistons been successful? Where have the Tigers been successful? Even maybe the Red Wings a little bit, even though they had some success with the checkbook as well. But it's those go back to work, put the hard hat on, those type of bad boys, lunch pail like Detroit driven type teams that have been successful.
Especially if it's in your DNA to draft and to sign based on those metrics, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think you love football, like love football. Are you a lunch pail guy? Like, if you're bringing those guys in, then all of a sudden, like, you start drifting into like, you're drinking Cabernet with your pinky up. It's like, what? Like, there's
we forgot who we were.
Yeah.
Like, they forgot who they were. They got too big for their britches. Their pinkies were up, and they forgot who they were. So now it's time to go back, get hungry, cook that steak rare, and get after it, right?
And get your camo can of Busch Light and do what you got to do, man, because this is
Put that
DNA.
pinky down, my friends. All right, here we go.
You've never seen a guy drink a camo can Busch Light with their pinky up, right? Like, that just doesn't happen, right? Like, you get excommunicated from the friend group.
Absolutely.
So, Brian, let's get into segment 2 here.
All right.
And that was live. Brian and Rob kind of ripping on that. Segment 2, Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about the new signing for the Detroit Lions? A re-signing for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Jack Campbell extension. Looking at a 4-year, $81 million extension. So this guy, Jack, he is going to be the centerpiece of the Detroit Lions now, through 2030. So, a guy that's going to be a green dot for the long term. So.
Yeah, that's exciting. I guess the moral of the story is, like, we should be fired up. It's a first-round pick that was highly scrutinized, that has just absolutely panned out. They played the contract situation perfect. They didn't pick up his option because that type of linebacker gets grouped in with DNs. Yep. That number goes
the Micah Parsons, the Myles
sky high.
Yep. Whatever.
So they restructured and they gave him a really fair deal ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So Lions like to pay early. You kind of get that little bit of a discount when you pay early.
Just a little bit early, yep.
Do you want to talk about what that contract looks like?
So we're looking at $81 million. Annually, $20.25 million per year. 51.5 of that is guaranteed, and he is under contract through 2030.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so something I did see was the Lions do have a ton of guys, and we can dive into this a little bit deeper later, at that $20 million a year mark. It's more than the Rams right now. It's more than the Eagles. It's pretty exciting to see that, one, we have talent on this team, and it's interesting to look back at that 2025 season and go, man, we underperformed. But we have to continue to remember this is a very talented roster with all pros, Pro Bowlers, and guys that are making some money. So,
and relatively young,
and still relatively
you take Jared Goff out, who's not old, but we brought him in. But this has been a draft and develop type roster.
Yep.
Is the whole philosophy. So a lot of these guys are like they're just getting into their second contract, and a lot of those second contracts are early second contracts.
Yeah, and we're paying those our guys. We're not. That's what's interesting. We're not going out and making that flashy free agent signing because we've done so well with the guys that we have.
Yeah.
So, but it brings you to the question: who's next? Is Jahmyr Gibbs going to be the next guy? Is Sam Laporta going to get a contract? Where do we see Brian Branch down the road? Those are kind of the big four from the 2023 draft class. Probably Jahmyr Gibbs in that process, but who's going to blink first? Is it going to be Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan? So
yeah, and I think knowing the Lions, they're going to want to try to get out in front of that contract, right?
I know, but is Jahmyr Gibbs going to allow them to do so?
You're right. The running back fell out of favor, and it's starting to jog its way back into favor right now, right? Like
sure.
It's not walking.
Yeah.
It's not even fast walking, right? It's getting right back into favor, and you're starting to see running backs starting to get a little bit of a bag again.
They're getting love again. I mean, there's value there, but you also have to pump the brakes a second because, statistically shows you can still get a guy with value at a lesser contract. Can you get a Jahmyr Gibbs though at that same kind of contract? No. He's a one of three in the NFL right now. Maybe one or two.
Can you name who you're
looking
thinking
at
about? Right here?
Saquon.
I don't
Jahmyr,
put Saquon in the Gibbs
Bijan,
category.
right?
I think
so. Saquon is now moving out of that. So what are we looking at? Two guys?
it's probably really just you got Bijan and Gibbs, and you got a couple guys on that second cusp of tiers that are is Ashton Genty had actually statistically a really good year on a really bad team. Is he going to break into that tier? You got Omarion Hampton, who was hurt a lot last year. You got Jeremiah Love, who is actually the highest paid running back in the NFL right now.
Crazy.
That's the love coming back into the running back, right? You like that? Yeah. So, and actually, the 2027 rookie class is offensively loaded.
Loaded.
With quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. And I think, So,
but that makes you wonder: do you push pause on that because you can get a guy on a rookie contract?
That's the battle, right? That's what you're battling. So, all right, moving on.
Yeah.
We'll get into those contract disputes later on. You got Laporta with health issues. Do you sign him at a discount early? You got Brian Branch with health issues like that. Those are Brad Holmes make or break moves, right? Because if he messes that up, man, you're gonna hear about it on this podcast for sure. Yeah. So a couple big trades. We'll hit these quickly because I think the next couple segments are going to be fun for you to listen to. So big trades. Myles Garrett traded for Jared Verse. Myles Garrett from the Browns to the Rams. The Rams are absolutely selling out, and maybe
for 1 year. They're doing it they got Matthew Stafford for one more year.
They just re-signed him.
Yeah,
so
for one
additional year.
Okay, so 2 years.
Yes.
So they're looking at the next 2 years trying to get as many Super Bowls as they can get, right?
Yeah. And so what they give up? They gave up Verse, who's a high end defensive
talent.
End. Yeah, young.
Love him.
They gave up a 2027 first, a 2028 second, and a 2029 third. When you think about Cleveland, they're not going to be a contender this year, but I like what they're building.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Tons of draft capital. They don't have a quarterback, but they're building everything else, and they're going to wait to find their quarterback, right?
That's fair. Maybe next year's the opportunity that they have draft capital in order to do so.
If I'm a Browns fan, I'm pretty excited, right?
Yeah.
So this is a trade where I think really both teams win.
Yeah.
I think the Browns got what they want. It sucks to part with a guy that's been the face of your franchise, but also a guy that didn't really want to be there, then got paid, and then he's like, my PR guy gets paid enough money to say, I'm happy to be here now. Yeah. He gets to go
to a contender.
Yeah, and
a contender.
And the Browns might be a contender in 3 years, man.
Right. That's fair.
That's wild. So also, A.J. Brown traded to the Pats for a 2028 first, a 2027 fifth. Currently, the Pats hold 2 fifths, so it's the better of their 2 fifth-round picks. I think this also kind of made sense for both teams.
Sure. I do question right now if the Pats are in a place, even though they're coming off a Super Bowl run of 2025. I don't see them in that same realm moving forward, that same tier moving forward.
I think I said the Browns. I meant to say the Eagles. Diana Rossini actually broke this trade. I don't know how she got.
How did she get that?
How did she get that knowledge? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But I don't want to agree with you, Brian. It pains me, but I think the Pats are fool's gold a little bit.
I do too.
They played that 4th place schedule. They didn't play a tough. Matter of fact, I don't think the Pats maybe make the playoffs this year.
I'd be interested. I think there's a lot of drama going on. Weird enough.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see where Vrabel lands and if he continues to be the Pats head coach going into the season, if not beyond. I'm interested. I'm interested to see how that works out. I think their defense is going to have to carry them, and their offense is going to have to continue to grind out seeing better teams.
Yeah.
And I think that last year they could rely on that defense against pretty poor offenses in order to pull them through.
Yeah. So I think it does make the Patriots obviously better year one, but they're getting a guy that's 29, has shown to be a little bit of a diva. Yeah, I was being nice. Has had a slow decline in production. Yeah. He's a beast. I mean, I want to give him credit. Also, he's
still good.
He's still a very, very talented player. But there's not a lot of 29, 30, going on 30-year-old wide receivers that are just absolutely crushing it. It kind of seems like that pinnacle wide receivers somewhere between that 25 and 28 range, right? Sure. And then and you could still be good well into your years, but there's not a lot of them that hold on to it, into their 30s. So they're paying maybe slightly past prime. Also, big contract number. Guys making, I think the cap hit on him is $30 million a year, right? Yeah. So it's just big cap hit. The Eagles they defy the odds with their moves. They are really, Howie just knows how to work it, right? And
he's doing some really good work over there.
So we'll patch that over. So we got 2 more segments coming up. This is going to go a little bit longer, but we missed each other. I know if you're listening still, you've noticed that we had to take about a week and a half, 2 weeks off. Brian's kids are going crazy with travel sports. He's a travel sports dad. And I saw his picture on the back of a milk carton. I called the number. I got him back over here. Yeah. So we're back in business. So
I'm sorry. It's also, I'm an educator, so we're at the end of the year. I mean, parents, how that works right now is the chaos, the 8th grade graduations, the 5th grade graduations, the 1st grade graduate. Well, I don't know why we're all graduating from the grade that we were just in. When I was in school, it was just we're moving on to the next grade. But no, it's all graduation. So we're doing all these things, and life is crazy right now. So We appreciate you being here and listening to us, even though we've been off for a bit. But we'd love to get back at it and tear away at some more Detroit Lions.
So with that being said, let's go segment 3, Brian. You had a couple questions here.
I do. So first, I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit. We just talked about some big trades. Okay, we talked about the Myles Garrett thing, the A.J. Brown thing. So we are coming off at an interesting spot from the 2025 season and 2026, a disappointing 9-8 season where you kind of have a feeling like, where are we? Is that window closing? Are the Detroit Lions still successful? Should we make a move like this in order to push us back into that window, or would making a move like this pull us away?
That's it's a great question. So you're coming into a loaded 2027.
Yeah.
So I think those picks have more value, and I think both sides of this transaction is going to realize that, right? Like, the Lions know, Brad Holmes knows that his 2027 first, second, third, all the way through has a little bit more value going into this, which is seen to be probably the best class since the 2024 class.
But where's the value in that class? You've already mentioned quarterback. Do we need a quarterback?
We don't need a quarterback.
Running back?
We don't need a running back.
Wide receiver?
We probably don't need a wide receiver.
Okay, so where's the value that in that 2027 class for specifically the Detroit Lions?
There's other areas, but the thing of it is there's a value for the Lions if they don't need a quarterback and they're in a spot to take a quarterback to move back, right?
Sure.
So they're nice. A lot of queens, right? A lot of chess pieces in that draft that can. So that being said, the Lions are sitting there, and I think you flex that muscle when you identify a big weakness. Kirby just can't go. Safety play is really, really bad. You got a team that's struggling that says, hey, we have a surefire all-pro sitting back here with a couple of years of term. You make that move, right?
Okay.
One of your offensive linemen go down, and maybe it's, I don't know, what's the weakest part? You get a guard a center go down. Whatever it might be, and you need to fill that gap, you make that trade. But Brian, I think you're going to ask a more important question here on, does Brad Holmes have the balls to make that trade?
Does he
We haven't seen it.
Exactly. And I think you probably, if you listen to sports radio, you've heard the GM talk across all 4 of the major sports, and all 4 GMs, do they have the balls to make that F them picks? Do they have the balls in order to say, hey, we want to go all in for this year? Not a longevity of success or mediocrity. It's do we have the ability to go all in for this year?
You haven't seen that. And man, I think you and I are going to be a little different here. And that doesn't, I think I'm wrong. But I really like the long window, and I'm really hesitant to mortgage the future for now, right?
Okay.
But I think you might have a different take.
No, I mean, it's hard because, when you take bites of the apple, at some point you wish that you could get there, right? The more the bites you get, the more opportunities you have in order to win that championship, right? Sure. Or you put all your chips in order to take a bigger bite. So what's the correct answer? It's, both can be true. It just has to be, the right guy at the right time for the right money in order to impact our Detroit Lions in the right way.
What I want to see with the Lions is I want to see a philosophy on similar to we just talked about the Eagles.
Yeah.
What did the Eagles do? Right? So the Eagles are all in, right? They're trying to win, right? But they're also looking at some of their stars, like A.J. Brown, saying all right, like we drafted Mekhi Lemon. We got Devontae Smith. We drafted Eli Stowers in the second round. We got pass catchers here. A.J. Brown, you were a biatch last year. We're shipping you off, and they're getting value, and they're able to recycle that value, right?
Sure.
And like, I don't think the Lions haven't recycled that value. Where like, if we're all we're doing is we're trading draft picks to get better draft picks, right? So we're like condensing our draft. We'll get a couple extra pieces here and there, but like, we haven't proven to really know how to recycle some of the value, right? Like Taylor Decker's ornery going into last year, like, and he still has value, and you kind of like, man, like, what's going on? And like, you're starting to see your B plus turn into a C plus. Like, why don't we make some bold moves?
Okay, so you're saying like maybe in 1 or 2 years, this is going to be maybe a hot take, but an Amon-Ra St. Brown might have value to ship off.
I'm thinking more of like a Jameson Williams.
Okay,
right, like,
which is interesting because Jamo's a bit younger. Right, you can see his uptick as well, even though Amon-Ra still has an uptick as well. But they may be and just very varied differences in their career.
But Amon-Ra is a culture guy. He's proven it time and time again. He's got the body type and the skill set that you can move him. He could be a slot merchant someday if he slows down.
Yep.
Jameson Williams is more of an A.J. Brown. He kind of has the wide receiver eccentric, and he still has value because what you mentioned, he's a bit younger. He's got term. He's still a bit of a shiny object, and like
Sure.
if he's not working out, and you can go and like what the Eagles did, they get him Mekhi Lemon. They're like, all right, like we'll do that, and then we'll get some value in lieu of that.
Yeah,
Like I would like to see the Lions make some of those proactive moves when they have a chance. And if that being said, like, yeah, then go all in when you have the opportunity, knowing that you can pivot both ways.
okay. I don't disagree. Love to see us go in when the right guy and the right term becomes available. So I think there is some patience that is necessary in order to do that. I am willing to put in a guy or two in order to make that happen, if that is the right guy and if it brings in the right guy. So, there's a lot of variables that would go into this exactly right now. I don't think Myles Garrett for us was the right term at the right time with the right guy, though I would love it. And I don't have a good answer for who the right guy is at that right term right now. But when it comes to the trade deadline this coming season, that might become more clear.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, wow, I mean, we're gonna punt the over unders. I think we'll push that in the next draft. But this has been some fun, some fun conversations, some fun food for thought. So, Brian, you had more questions. Though.
I did.
We just scratched the first box, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Let me ask you this. Okay, what is a successful 2026 season? We're right now in OTAs. It's early. It's so early. But we're coming off a 9-8 season, which was disappointing. Are we going to get back to a 15-win season? And is that success? Is a NFC Championship berth success? Or are we still in it to win it? And is a Super Bowl championship or at least a Super Bowl appearance success? Where do you put the standard for the Detroit Lions?
I think success this year is a feeling that we end the season either as a Super Bowl championship football team or with the taste in our mouth like we had not last season, but the two prior seasons where we think we have a chance definitely the next year. Where we have a season, where you maybe you win the North, or you make a deep playoff run and you come up short because it's tough. But you come up short and you look at your roster and you say, man, like I like our young roster. We're one guy away where we think we can be Super Bowl contenders next year. If we have that sort of taste in our mouth at the end of this season, very much unlike the taste that we had at the end of last season, I think that's a very successful season.
Okay. I like that too. I want to aspire for not just making the playoffs, but making the championship game. Right? I want to be in the conversation as the season continues or goes into the ending days, saying, nope, the Lions are right there. We've talked a lot, or we're hearing a lot right now about the LA Rams and what they're doing and all in and their roster and what they have available to make it to a championship. If the Lions are meeting that standard, that's where I think we found success.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like in the NFL, 2/3 of the teams are all in, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know the Rams made a bold move and they gave up, 27, 28, and 29 draft picks. So that tells me that, like, I don't know, the GM doesn't care. He needs to win this year or next year. Sean McVay is like probably willing to walk away if the cookie crumbles. Like, he's like, man, like, all right, like, if Ty Simpson's the starting quarterback next year, I'm out. Because like I'm not gonna go through this rebuild. And I feel bad for Ty Simpson because like either Stafford, they're going to win a Super Bowl and Stafford's going to sail off into the sunset, or like they're going to win a couple and then they have to basically burn that franchise down because they got no future equity, right?
But they got championships.
They do got championships, yeah. So, and they're the odds-on favorites right now to win those championships. So, and maybe Brian, you had more questions though. Like maybe your final question, which would sew some of these other questions up a little bit. Top one, yeah. So
all right. So what's your biggest concern going in to the 2026 season? So we've talked about what our expectations are. We've talked about moving players in order to bring in a guy that might turn the tables or get us over that next little edge, But what is the biggest concern of the 2026 season? And how do you address it?
Yeah, I think your biggest concern as a Lions fan going into the 2026 season is, I think it's health, and I think You're crazy to not think it's healthier quarterback because the Lions are the Toronto Argonauts if Jared Goff goes down, right? It's just...
You don't think Teddy Bridgewater can carry that load?
Teddy might be talented enough to like squeak into a wild card game, but the season's over if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be your quarterback.
We talk about expectations. We talk about championship expectations.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater, though, is I would say one of the top tier backup quarterbacks that we could ask for. He is definitely not a championship caliber quarterback.
No, so you got to keep your quarterback healthy. You hope. I think another concern is like they paid one guy on a free agent contract, right? Because they're kind of hoarding money for their developmental rookies. You hope that Cade Mays is a good signing, right? Yeah. Also, you hope your draft equity proves to be like at least like solid.
Yeah, you hope Blake Miller does Blake Miller things and is consistent and solid, like you said, solid in establishing himself as that right tackle. You hope that Derek Moore can transition into a starting role or a contributing role. We have hopes that those guys fill spots and give us something in return.
Yeah, and hope's based off of concern. So you like, a concern like Kirby Joseph being Kirby Joseph again. Yeah. Brian Branch like playing football towards the end of the season. That's a very big concern. I do think that they signed a couple solid safeties, but safety we're thin there. If those guys get hurt and we don't get our original starters back,
right.
we're looking pretty weak there. Sam Laporta, your concern is like, is his back okay? Because they didn't do anything they didn't go out and get Njoku.
They had Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't do anything to sew up that.
Right.
So like, you really hope Laporta is going to be solid, right? Like, is David Montgomery a bigger loss than what we hope? Is Pacheco like, I don't know. Like,
is he just a name? Like that's I would say Isaiah Pacheco is a name right now, but he's a name from 7 years ago that you would have hoped can produce something in this Lions offense. And I know that we're not reliant on that. It's definitely not my biggest concern, but it's definitely a concern. Losing a David Montgomery is big. It is big. Not utilizing him this last year was big. But I do think that Jahmyr Gibbs is a star, and we're going to need to lean on him quite a bit. So just as equally concerning as losing Jared Goff might be a Jahmyr Gibbs injury.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that'd be very tough. And Gibbs he's been healthy, so far in his career. Mm-hmm. If Montgomery goes and Gibbs is a rocket ship and takes off, like, all's well in Lion Land, right? You get Pacheco to spell him, 5 to 7 carries a game. Yeah. All is well, and Lalone, contributed to the pod, on the pod. Pacheco is a bit of a prom queen. You and I talk about prom queens all the time. You look back at the yearbook and they look like this, right? And then you run them at the pub and they look like that, right? And it's just like, I think that Pacheco isn't this, and I hope he's not that. Like, maybe he's somewhere in the middle. He's a serviceable player.
I hope with the load that we give him, he makes it through 17 games. Like, that's my hope for him. My caution.
Yeah.
But I would agree. I think caution lies in that offensive line. I think the caution lies within the center, maybe specifically, and I think that if we can, have those things work out, we're gonna be standing pretty confident.
Yeah, off season's heating up, Brian. We're gonna hit an hour on this one. So if you're still listening, hey, shout out Phil. If you're listening still, by the time you're hearing this, seeing this, I hope you pass your test. Have fun in Arkansas. Tear it up. But the offseason's heating up. Expectations are heating up. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think, again, this is where I think passing time thrives on bridging some of these gaps and having some of these conversations. So if you got something you want to talk about, let us know.
Please.
We apologize. A couple weeks of chaos here. Keep us on your algorithm. Keep us rolling. Brian, keep promoting the podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
But that's it, man. You got anything else you want to?
We appreciate you guys. Again, like we said at the beginning of the pod, like, subscribe, pass this thing on, allow us to get in your algorithm, and if you have something you want to share, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you.
Stay gritty. Go Lions.
Go Lions.